liberty! Is this not why you are here?
Here we go. It's that time again on a Wednesday. Everybody hungry? We have the meat. Got Ryan Stone coming in today for a little bit. I don't know how long he's going to stay. Today's going to be kind of a short show. So today we're going to talk about red meat for the red pill. Why you guys get off on it. You're all doomed. Are you hangry? Yeah, I bet you are hangry. By the way, tune out right now if you don't look like the standard Chad that everyone expects you to look like. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that would be me. Of course, I look like the Chad, right? There it is. Strong jawline. Shave it up so it looks right. Oh, wait. Oh, no, Ryan's mad at me. Thank you. Thank you. Really, really. Thank you. It's all good. It's all good. All right, that's enough of that crap. Yeah, Ryan's coming in. We're all of us today, for whatever reason, are flying by the seat of our pants. So just wanted to let you guys know that. I'm messing with a new camera setup today. I've got some different lighting arranged. So if this looks good to you, please let me know either in the comments or in the chat. I have Sam Bada, who is moderating the chat today. So behave yourselves, particularly on today's topic. I don't know if you guys are even aware of what I'm going to talk about today, but I've mentioned this topic at least 3 or 4 times in the last, I would say, 6 weeks, certainly since the lockdown, the shutdown. So I got into a sort of a, I don't call it a debate. I hate calling Twitter debate because it's never a friggin' debate. It's not a debate. You know what Twitter's for? Twitter's for advertising and for throwing rocks at other people. That's really what Twitter is. I'll tell you something about Twitter. I think I joined Twitter in 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. I was never a big Twitter guy until the first book was published, and then I just sort of put it on there because people said, "Hey, welcome, you're on Twitter. I want to talk to you." So I started doing that, and I kind of discovered that Twitter is not a good medium if you are trying to explain ideas. I came from a background, obviously, of writing a blog, and then, of course, engaging in sort of long-term debates on online forums, which I think actually are probably a better place to discuss things. With the notable, thank you for the 10-year anniversary. Yeah, I'm 10 years, by the way, on WordPress right now. They sent me where is that? Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for $2 for 10 years. I started up on WordPress about 10 years ago. My blog is actually only 9 years old, but I started my WordPress career, I guess, in 2010. That's interesting. That was kind of a time for me when everything was sort of new, I guess. Remember, this is a decade ago. It's weird to talk about it in terms of being like as old as 10 years. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that is sort of part of the topic that I'm going to talk about today. As I was saying, I got into a sort of let's just say a Twitter exchange just recently where got kind of fed up. Sorry. I'm not gonna, sorry, not sorry. I think one of the things that gets me is whenever people today who are unfamiliar with my work, or only like just sort of peripherally familiar with what I've written over the course of almost 20 years now, they tend to see me because I'm the last R in the Monosphere that's left. I mean, unless you consider Ryan and Rich some R's, but with respect to Rollo, Royce, and Roosh, I'm the only living survivor left, except for this man right here, who is the 4th R. There he is, 4th R Consulting. How you doing, man?
Dude, a little stressed, but it's fun, man. How's things?
That's good.
What are we on now? Week 5, week 6, week 8?
I think we're into, well, the way I'm looking at it is we're halfway through week 8, because I consider the lockdown, at least as far as I'm concerned, was back around like March 15th, I think. My brother's birthday was actually March 8th, and I missed his birthday, but then I went out to his place the week after, and that's when that's when everything went to hell. So.
See, that's funny. My brother's birthday is March 9th.
Really?
Yeah.
So I was just saying here, and I want to talk about your book today too, as well, because I know you're like, you know where you're at right now, Ryan. You're in the expectant father phase of your first book. It's like having your first baby born. It's like you're in the expectant father of your first book. Like when you get to like the second or third, then you're like, all right, what am I going to do now? But when it's your first book, you're like, ooh, and you wake up every morning and you go to kdp.com and you look, oh, look at what Kindle Publishing.
I just leave the tab open and refresh it.
Yeah, I refresh it. Yeah. You don't even close out of the browser. You just leave it up.
Dude, I don't like this feeling at all. I don't like it. It's whatever.
It gets easier.
I'm assuming it does. It reminds me, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when I first started to practice pickup. And I got like my first girl in bed, and I thought for sure like something's gonna happen. Last minute resistance or an anti-slut defense, and they're like 5 pumps in, I'm like, oh wow, nothing happened. I'm just waiting for that 5th pump.
You mean you actually have skills to pick up girls? Is that what I'm getting from you right now?
Dude, yeah. Heaven forbid an averagely functioning man can succeed somewhat.
Yeah, imagine that, right? Imagine that.
Which I think is the point of the topic of this show, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just saying today, as I got into maybe you know this, I don't know if you followed or not, but I get into these Twitter exchanges because they're certainly not debates. And usually what happens is somebody throws rock, and you see this all the time with like sort of the Carolina Hermes kind of account, or like the pinnacle of a man, apex of a man, the magnitude of a man, name whatever virtuous sounding adjective you can put in front of man, and that's the account that throws rocks at me and simply doesn't understand the scope or the depth of the work that I've done for a very long time. Now, this isn't like sort of I'm not flexing on anybody. I'm just saying that what happens is I will say something, or I'll put something on Twitter, or I'll maybe it's not even me talking. It's maybe one of my proxy accounts that's like doing a quote out of one of my books.
Oh, yeah. You don't control that Rollotomassi tweet account.
No, I don't.
That's kind of cool. Well, that's a nice fan.
Well, it's a proxy. Yeah, it's great. It's a proxy account. I love it. And there's a few of these guys like the Got Game will quote me often enough. And then there's the Rational Male Quotes, which is surprised the hell out of me because like it started out as just sort of this one guy just doing these things. And now suddenly it's up to like, I think it's up to 18,000 followers on that account. And it hasn't even been out for a year. So
dang.
Yeah, I was, but so I'll, somebody will retweet me, or they'll put something in the DM. They go, what did you mean by this? I'm like, that, like something I wrote probably 12 years ago. They're like, explain this to me. Hold my hand through this. And here's my problem.
And they don't actually want to explain. They just want a reason to run their mouth as soon as you say something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe the reason I'm kind of like sensitive to this right now is because ever since the lockdown, people have more time on their hands. What did he mean by this? And so you and I have talked about this before, and I think we talked about this with John from Modern Life Dating as well. I think what I have seen, like I was telling everybody here, I've been in this sphere, quote unquote, for 19, almost 20 years now.
Jesus.
Really, I mean, if you count when I started posting on the SoSwap forums, which is where I usually, I figure, well, I can go back to 2002 or 2001, I think, and find tweets or find like debates and conversations that I engaged in back then. And I was pretty much, that's where, the inception, I guess, of the stuff that I work on. And And there's a lot. It's like people, it's funny is people always joke around with me and they're like, well, you have a post for everything or you have an essay for everything. It's like, yeah, because I've been doing this for like 20 some odd years.
I can't believe people haven't figured that out. They think you're some kind of like omnipotent Jesus figure. And I'm like, dude, if you argue with people long enough, you eventually notice there's only like 5 arguments and just write some essays around them. And there you go.
Yeah. And so I wanted to sort of point out to this. Yes, Rollo is so negative. Well, we're going to talk about that today, actually, because I wanted to sort of explore the negativity or the positivity of what it is that I do, what you do actually as well too. And we try as much as we can to stay in the vein of apraxology with respect to the red pill. In fact, I have been trying and failing for a very long time to find some other terminology to use other than the red pill for what it is that we do. And I mean, we could come up with some new term.
It's hard though. They're all so masturbatory. It's like, and you end up with like legends of men. Even rational men was like one you found. It was the best so far. And even then it kind of has that back pat feel to it. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing. Like when somebody who is new to my work, or it's somebody who's outside the sphere, or it's an account, it's a woman's account or a girl's account, and maybe they're 20 years old, maybe they're 24 years old, and they're, who's this little guy, rational male? And that's the first thing out of their mouths is, well, any guy calling himself rational, that's not very rational. And I remember when I first started, I'm like, what am I going to name this? What am I going to call this blog or whatever? I didn't come up with the name Rational Male, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows that. It was a friend of mine who was on the SoSuave forums, had started a new forum called the Rational Male Forums. And it just withered and died and nobody ever paid any attention to it. And I told him, I said, hey, can I use that for the name of my blog? And he was like, cool with that. And so I went with that, but I was very hesitant to use the term rational male because of exactly what I'm telling you right now. So when people first see it and they're outside the sphere, they're like, that it becomes this instant insult, right? Like, how dare you call yourself a rational person? And I thought that was interesting because a lot of people will, just like referring to yourself as somebody who, I'm not saying I'm like this super intellectual guy. I just connect dots. I would like to think I have some kind of higher IQ, but I'm not like, I'm not programming things. I'm not sending rockets to the moon or anything like that. But like just
that's the beauty with the topic. You don't have to be.
Yeah. Just the act of me calling myself the rational male, or really for even young guys to call themselves a man, is really tough for them to do because there's so many negative connotations with certain words. To call yourself a rational male, now I love it because I know that it's triggering to guys. I know that it really, when I did the the interview for VPro, for the Dutch public,
the Dutch guys there,
interview that I did, and they're I know they have to use sort of English words at certain points, and they said rational male, and I'm like, ha.
I know that one.
Now everyone in Europe knows who the rational male is. So this is sort of, I'm saying all this, I'm talking about all this just to sort of build up to the fact that I'm old. I've been in this for a long time. I've been doing this for a while. And what I find happening is I've seen a lot of things happen over the years. So if you just give me 20 years, okay? So let's just say I've been at this for 20 years. And in that time, I have seen a lot of changes in what we now call the Monosphere. We didn't even call it the Monosphere back then. It was just like it was a seduction community, I guess. Maybe
I don't think people realize the Monosphere wasn't a compliment.
Yeah.
There was I can't remember who it was. It was a feminist wrote an article on it, and they wanted to lump everybody together as these misogynist dirtbags.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was a part of the blogosphere, they just called it the Manosphere as a way to like condemn it. And then guys just rolled with it. They're like, all right, let's make this our N-word and go.
Yeah. Well,
everybody gets an N-word. That's ours.
Again, there's no way I can like relate this stuff without sounding like I'm glossing myself or I'm flexing on somebody or whatever. So fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. Okay. I mean, I've been at this for a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff come and go and then come again and then go and then come again. So when guys like say, well, I joke around on Twitter, and people like, you don't joke on Twitter, you don't use metaphor on Twitter, you don't use allegory on Twitter, because there's some literalists that will take you too seriously and say, oh, I used to follow him, but then he made a joke and now I don't follow him anymore.
Dude, I love those. I used to think you were somebody better. I'm like, that's sweet. Now that we cleared that up, take care.
Yeah, unfollow. It's I did this, I'm sure people would take it all the wrong way, but like, I know Hotep Jesus will block people, and then he'll tweet about why he blocked them, and then he says, if you want to unblock, it will cost you $347. Just like some random arbitrary number.
That is funny. I put that right up there with his like woke water, where, all right, you want to be woke, I'll give you like the Hotep seal of approval that you have your black friend.
Oh my God, I know. And so but you can't, particularly for me, because before I don't think people really understand, like prior to 2017, October of 2017, nobody knew what my face looked like. Very few people knew what my voice sounded like. I was pretty much a guy who was either just on my blog, on a few forums, and on occasionally on Twitter.
Yeah, there was one photo I remember of you sitting by a pool with a baseball hat on in like 120 pixels by 120 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard to tell what the hell I was looking at.
That wasn't a pool, actually. That was Lake Tahoe. I think it was it was my old Gravatar for my blog, and for like, if you want to comment on like WordPress blogs, you have to have a Gravatar or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I chose that a long time ago, and I had no idea that was going to show up later on after I had used it for like using for comments and stuff. And then I ended up switching over to just my little RM logo later on. Mm-hmm. But that's another thing, is like people will see that, and I can remember prior to me showing my face, like I think it was in 2016, I would Google myself to see, if anybody knew who Rollotomassi was, and that was the one picture that was there. Or it was, I remember Goldman interviewed me one time, and I told him, I said, I'll do it, but I got to have dark glasses on, I need a hat on, and I want to look, like I don't want my face out there just yet. And that was actually I shouldn't say it wasn't the 21 convention. It was the Goldman interview, where he got the first real like picture, live video of me when I was talking to him. Mm-hmm. So, but again, I've been at this for a while. People think I have like some sort of like, like I'm Nostradamus or Rollodamus, right? I hate being right all the time. I'll joke around like that, and people go, "What do you mean you hate being right? Yeah, explain that for me."
Yeah, no, you're not omnipotent. It's just predictable. Like I've seen it for the marriages. Everybody who comes in, there's maybe 6 separate stories, little changes in some of the details, but there's 6 general guys who come in there. And then they're always confused how somebody will come in and maybe having a good day, write like a 250 word essay onto what his problem is, what he needs to do to fix it, and likely why he's not going to do anything about it and what his problems are. And you'll come back like it's the most amazing thing in the world. It's like, no, man, if you look back at my history, I've wrote this about 50 other times, each time getting one more detail right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, how could you not, after 20 years, it's just expectations. How could I expect you not to know what you're doing? Mm-hmm. Who in any job has been doing it for 20 years? And they're like, how do you know? Like, you should know by then. That's kind of the point. It's not fluffing you. No offense. But like at this point, if you didn't know that, it would make me raise more questions than if you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And then I get stuff like this. Who remembers Rollo before, or who remembers before Rollo started the Rational Male blog and was just a regular commenter on Royce's blog? Actually, I wasn't just a regular commenter on board. I didn't really comment all that much on Royce. I would every so often when it was a topic. Now, remember, this was back in the day when Royce focused more on game. And it was
like Royce in DC, or was this Chateau Artiste?
It wasn't even Chateau Artiste back then. And if you go and you look at what I did on SoSuave, I was much more active on SoSuave, and it goes well before even Royce started his blog. If you go and because it used to be that like Alt Fast Seduction, which is where Mystery Method and RSD started, and then there was SoSuave, and then there was a couple other ones. And SoSuave was sort of my home base, where I was actually a moderator right up until about 2014. And then I couldn't keep up with it anymore. I still go over there and lurk now and then just to see what guys are talking about. But again, like you were saying, it's the same stuff. It's the same, you know, I think the context has changed, the conditions have changed a little bit, but it's the same. Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? What's the, you know, why do girls do this? Or how do I get my girlfriend back? Or, you know, what do Rollo about X, Y, and Z? And a lot of people will go, I don't know if they've done this yet. I think I've seen a couple of these where they'll go and they'll look for my old SoSwap posts and they'll archive them as some sort of like Rollo's archive.
Oh, a lot of guys do. A lot of guys have Royce's stuff, your stuff.
Yeah,
everybody keeps deleting blogs, so there's always like this underground network of loosely put together. Solomon too. Do you remember him?
Yes. Yes.
I remember even Roosh has an archive of his whole thing.
Remember? Do you remember Badger Hut?
I don't actually.
Was another go. Remember the Spearhead? Everybody's got to remember the Spearhead.
The Spearhead, I remember.
Spearhead was Return of Kings before Return of Kings was Return of Kings, and now even Return of Kings is gone. And I remember that. I also remember.
The Yeah Really archive.
Matt Forney was another one, but he used to have one called, what was it? God, it had some Latin name. I can't remember what it was. Oh, In Malafide. That's what it was called. Fide. And that was a very close proximal thing, I guess, of like Return of Kings. And again, now Return of Kings is gone. So a lot of stuff has happened in those 20 years. And I think what happens is, I'm like, just getting back to my story here. I was getting into sort of this Twitter exchange where people would say, well, you know, I don't like Rollo because he's so negative, or like he talks to these guys and they listen to his stuff and now suddenly they become suicidal and they've suddenly become black pill, or they suddenly lose their minds because
video games cause school shootings argument.
Yeah, exactly.
The one that we've like completely shut down because it's ridiculous since 1993.
Yeah. And so this topic today is not about that. This topic is about what I'm seeing happen in the sphere right now. We are in a different generation now. The kids who are like, when I started in let's just say 2002, those kids are now 18 years old. So we're talking about like the guys who are anywhere between say 18 and let's say 28 in that stretch, in that demographic right now. They were kids and they grew up, like we talked about this before, how this last generation of guys, our demographic anyways, grew up on Google, on Tumblr, on Twitter, on Twitch, on 4chan, on all these other things, and that
GeoCities.
Minecraft. Yeah. They grew up on all of this stuff online pretty much, and that's where this is really the first generation that has been socialized and acculturated in a globalized sexual marketplace, of course, but also just a social marketplace. So like guys right now who, like, for my generation, there's no way I would be, unless I had like sort of a pen pal or something. I couldn't have a relationship or a friendship with a guy in Canada. I couldn't, unless I knew them from like some foreign exchange thing I was doing.
It was pretty much a geographic limitation for everybody.
And now people are like, what's the big deal? I know a guy in Mumbai, right? I know a guy in Japan, in Tokyo right now. I know a guy in the UK, and I know two guys at least in, where are you, Ontario? Toronto?
Yeah, Ontario. See, that's the even thing. Like when you say I know a guy or I have a friend there, to somebody like you who was raised geographically, when somebody says friend, totally different connotation than when some guy says he has a friend online. You wouldn't even consider that a friend, maybe an acquaintance.
Right. Virtual.
So like even, the goalposts have changed in so many ways.
Okay. I'm going to answer this real quick. Rollo, will you be willing to debate Face and LMS? Okay. What do you want me to debate? What's the topic of the debate? And I'll be happy to tell you yes or no.
So in other words, you want a classical debate, none of this posturing for clout.
Well, it's the same thing with thank you, man. It's the same thing with like Pat Stedman and a lot of
I knew you were going to bring him up.
Well, because he's the one who keeps saying, well, Rollo won't debate me. I'm like, oh, I have said this for the last 3 friggin' years. Give me a topic you want to debate that you think that I'm wrong about and you're right about, and we'll debate that. It's never that. It never comes down to that, and never have. And you know how I know it never comes down to that? Because I've done it before. I've done it back in 2012. I did it back in 2009.
Yeah, we all have to make that mistake. We did that too. Gay Luboy was huge on having that. If you guys remember this guy, John put him on his show as like, all right, you come through me and we'll have a good debate. And then you can, jump up to the mini bosses or whatever. And what did he do? He showed up 45 minutes late, dropped an F-bomb and an N-bomb on John, had a Pikachu avatar, and then just left after insulting everybody. It's like, these guys don't want to debate. These guys just want attention. It's like a petulant child. And I mean that literally, not as a pejorative.
Well,
Petulant children.
yeah, and I agree with you. I think they are petulant children, and I do think that. Remember, these are guys again who have been raised and acculturated online. They're not. It's not like natural. Like you're talking to people face to face, learning in real time, learning like normal human beings have for the last 100,000 years. These are people who have been brought up behind a screen, and like, well, I want to debate you. Well, okay, why? Well, because I just do. Okay, well, there's a difference between having a debate and having a purpose and point to that,
and being a punching bag.
Well, at the end of a debate, what do you want? Do you want to? I won the debate. Okay, well, is it a winning? Is it a team sport, or are we going to try to hash out ideas and come to a better consensus on something? Or do we have an actual point to this, or is it just like throwing shit at each other? Because that's usually what it ends up being.
Well, that's the thing. And
like when we talked to Turd Flinging Monkey on that other podcast we used to do, it's like I wanted to talk to the guy because you want to know what the guy's about. And I still do. I don't have any problem with Turd Flinging Monkey. I think he's got a lot of the analysis down right. It's the what comes after it.
Lifestyle differences.
Yeah, very much so. But I think that analysis-wise, there's a lot of common ground between. The basis of MGTOW, the basis of Black Pill, the basis of Purple Pill, the Tradcons, whatever, it all goes back to the Red Pill. Everything that they talk about, they just take it and they go, okay, we have all these things. Where are we going to go with it? What are we going to do with it? And that's really sort of the germ of the idea I had for this program, because what's happening is a lot of people are doing that and they're seeing it as a grift. They're seeing it as a way to make money.
And that's such a frame thing too. Think about it. All these guys naming them things, different pills. How are they going to sell a guy on self-actualization when they can't even sell their own, I don't know, worldview, for lack of a better word? They have to like attach it to this and then say why it's different. That's automatically conceding that you're above them on whatever stupid hierarchy they have in their head, which explains why you're getting so much crap. It's like literally, Dad, you can't tell me what to do, and they're fighting with him before they move out at 18.
Yeah. Screw you, man. I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Ooh, and I'll tell you what. Oh, do this guy's thing. I got a good point for you afterwards on debate.
Oh, anyways, is abortion a form of infanticide? Yes, it is. Next. Yeah. Says $5.
You can also call it eugenics if you want.
You can actually. Abortion is the ultimate expression of hypergamy. Ask me about that sometime.
Back to you can do his first. Okay.
Let me see. It says, "Hey Ryan, I'm the same Ricky from MLD's webinar, Indian guy who moved here. Do you have any good recommendations for photographers in Toronto?"
That's the thing. No, I don't. I mean, there's Peter McKinnon. You can see him on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure you probably can't afford him. I know a bunch of guys down in Brampton who do like a bunch of Indian weddings, but I don't think that's what you're looking for either. So unfortunately, I'm not connected to that sphere. But it shouldn't be hard to find. The more artsy they are, the better. Look for guys with tattoos. Always tattoos.
All right, let's go with this one real quick because we're going to get back to debate here. Facing LMS, I think my face is ugly and I don't want to do the work to get myself in shape or work on my finances or improve my game. Debate me.
But yeah, that's the thing. So you're talking, and I'm gonna heavily borrow from Whisper on this one because he's kind of put this really eloquently.
I wish we could get him on.
Yeah, it'd be nice. We'll get him there. He's got 2 girlfriends, and he kind of doesn't want them getting harassed if he gets doxxed. I can understand it. But you're talking classical debate. That's 2 people debating in front of an audience with the purpose of coming to some better understanding. So you're not really arguing with each other. You're arguing to the audience, and the audience makes up its mind. They declare a winner based on who's had their mind changed, whatever. That got switched to modern debate. And that's the stuff that you'll see feminists in that do, where the debate is just to prove who is the better person so you can dismiss the other guy.
Right.
That's why you see like there was like the biggest thing from 2005 to 2015. Somebody owns a feminist, atheist owns Christians. It was always about like, it was team sport. And then we got into postmodern, which it wasn't even about that. It was literally just blood sport. Like, I just want to watch this guy tear this other guy apart. Like, I want to see my team win. They didn't actually want to learn anything. Just want to shout at people they didn't like. And so we're kind of, what's that?
What was the guy who, like, when you talk about internet blood, or was it
Worski?
Yeah, Worski, Andrew Worski, that's who it was. And he brought Roosh on there, and he'd like ambushed him with like some chicks that hated him.
Oh, Brittany Venti. Yeah, that was hilarious. Just with some fake baked cookies. She just owned his ass.
That was so funny, too.
Like, if you're going to call yourself the Godfather of a game and you have a 20-year-old chick making fun of you, like, dude, think about what you're doing.
I know. But I watched John a little bit of that clip that John, and I'm sure he'll bring it up on Saturday. The clip of him just owning those two little girls on Twitch just last night. People are going to ask me, give me the link now. Hit me up in my DMs or something. I'll give you the link. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. Now we're in post discourse, and that is, there's no argument to be had. The argument is your work. Like, I'll use. Let's say, I'm just picking this randomly because he's the only other guy I know who started writing a book before I did. That was a limitable man. He has his dark triad way of looking at the world, yada, yada. I have mine, which is pretty stereotypical, red pill, based on experience, praxeological. The argument was who got content out, who got it out first, and who got out more, and who got better, and who brought more people to their way of thinking. So that debate was had, and it's finished now. But that's how it works now. So everybody who says they want to debate you, it's their way of saying, I can't build a body of work to come close. So I would rather just go back to the old way of debating and just try and knock you down a peg or two to make me look good.
Right.
Which, it's not only outdated, it's not effective. And it's showing your belly. It's showing I have nothing else. It's an ultimatum, essentially, if you want to think of it that way. And that's kind of what got me thinking, because we were saying that since the start. Ever since that whole Florida man craziness nonsense. And hopefully now you guys know what we're talking about. But our plan, strategically going forward, is drown out this nonsense with content. And I think for the most part, everybody's succeeded. God knows you have. You built a 30,000 person YouTube channel overnight, essentially.
Within a year.
So. Yeah. So what more is there to say? Like, what can somebody say to say anything about that?
Well, and that's what gets me. It kind of goes back to like, oh, go debate, face an LMS. I'll be happy to if you want to give me a purpose and a point to it. Yeah, go debate Stedman. Okay, give me a purpose and a point to it. Tell me what we're debating about, because that's really where it comes down to. And what's interesting to me right now is, like, even if they wanted to debate me to like sort of like knock me down a peg or something, what's even the point for that? Because most of these guys don't have YouTube channels that are monetized. Most of them don't have the reach that I do, or you or anybody else on our side of the fence here. But the reason they want to do that is really because it is ego affirming for them. It's not because they're trying to get more followers or more subs or have access to your audience. That's what people used to say to me. Don't debate him because you just be giving him free advertising. I'm like, what could he possibly
advertising? What?
Advertising what? The reason he wants to do that, the reason these guys want to debate him, is because they have this ego thing where it's like, well, I'll feel better if I can like own him on a couple of things. And again, it's this team blood sport kind of thing. And I was saying before, is when we were talking to Turf Flinging Monkey, 2 years ago or something like that. I brought him on because I really wanted to get to know the guy. I wanted to sort of,
big softy.
Well, again, it's me wanting to be like a objective truth, right? I wanted to sort of look what's under the hood. I didn't want to bring him down. I wasn't bringing him on to like to knock his dick in the dirt or anything. I wanted to know what was going on about the guy. But what's funny is, and I felt like we did some good at the end of that. I was like, okay, now we know what this guy's about. Now we know, what's happening here. And I felt like I was a little bit better educated as a result of that. But of course, what happened? If you go back and you look at the comments to this day, guys are like going, man, he really owned you. Oh, MGTOW forever.
Oh yeah, half said you owned him, half said he owned you, and you're like, what?
And it's like, it wasn't about owning anybody. Now, that's funny that you should say that, because when Whisper was talking about the difference between empiricists and believers, it's the same thing. It's not religious, but they're believers. It's a team sport. This is my tribe. This is who I affiliate and I identify with. And that's where I wanted to go with this today, because what I'm seeing right now is the red meat for the red pill is something that has become very, very profitable right now. And so when I do something, if I even say the term MGTOW, everybody goes, oh, he just doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand. He can't get us. He's not on our team. Doesn't think he's married. How the hell do you think he can do it?
We tried. We asked 10 of you and got 12 different answers.
and I don't even have to. All I have to do is say MGTOW. That's all I have to do. And then suddenly, oh, I can't believe he would say I'll debate you about it. A debate about what? About what? I'm not even referring to anything in specific. It's because it's this team mentality. And you know what? There are guys online right now who are tapping into that as a marketing tactic right now. And I've said this before.
Coach Greg Adams. Oh, excuse me.
Well, okay.
Little allergies here.
Coach Greg Adams. Yes. To a lesser extent, I mean, this is a really good example of this, I think, was Elliot Hulse back in the day. Now, I like Elliot Hulse, but I remember when he came across the idea of MGTOW, men going their own way. He didn't understand what it was about. He just wanted to tap into that market because it sounded like something that he could get into, or something that was, in some way peripherally associated with what he was doing with men at that time. Now,
it's probably thinking of the logo designs on a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was something that was trending. And so when guys say this, well, when Rollo starts talking about MGTOW, it means that he, the red pill's not selling anymore. So, MGTOW is eclipsing the red pill. It's like, no, MGTOW doesn't exist without the red pill, period. End of story.
And even if it does, so what?
Yeah.
There's a market for crack. Who cares if it's growing?
Yeah. And so the reason I even got into this was because I had guys who will come to me and they'll say, well, Rollo's saying this, or Rollo said that women can't love us. Oh, great. That's awesome. Because I don't want to be loved, because I don't want to, I want to feel bad about myself, because I want to commiserate with all my brothers, all my MGTOW brothers, all my incel brothers, all my whatever brother, my forever alone brothers, true force loneliness brothers, whatever. And we're just going to sit here and you know what? There's a lot, those channels. I can go look at those channels right now, and they're way more popular than mine.
There's that one. The guy does a daily live stream, like Single Gentleman or something, Bachelor. What's this channel? You guys might know it in the chat. He's growing like huge right now.
Better Bachelor?
Better Bachelor. That's the guy.
Name yourself Joker and everybody will love you. Let's put that in. Like, if you put Joker in, that is a great what is it? Not hashtag. That's a great term. What is it? A search term. That's a tag. That's a really great tag. If you put Joker in there, who do you think's going to find you if you start calling yourself Joker? Who do you think's going to find you if you put these tags in there? MGTOW, MRA, men not marrying, whatever. But what happens when you put those tags in there? I actually did an experiment with this show. As I put as many like triggering tags as I possibly could in the search terms for this show. I'll probably get banned. I'm certain to get demonetized. But for this particular show, it was an experiment. I wanted to see, okay, I'm going to put incel, I'm going to put PUA, I'm going to put red pill, because I know that the YouTube algorithm searches for exactly all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, what are people looking for? How many more people are going to find this as a result? And that's what I mean by the red meat. The red meat is giving these guys the doom and gloom and nihilism and black pill.
I wouldn't even say nihilism. I would call it like existential despair. Because nihilism has like an uncanny valley on the path to self-actualization. Right. I don't want to give them that much credit.
Right. And so, I thought about doing this show, and I'm like, I'll probably, poke the bear with this one, but I honestly don't care at this point, because you know what? I'm getting shit thrown at me by by people who are outside the sphere for all of this anyways. So why not
lean into it?
Let's just lean into it. Exactly.
Well, and here's the thing that's funny about it too. So all this debate me, fight me, bro things, it's like Internet 97, fight me and send your address on the internet. It's competition. And I know there's a huge surge of like this incels or MGTOWs. I'm not even sure who, Glow Gang, whoever, that they're all up on competition as like the new mask. It's the new truck nuts for Zoomers. Mm-hmm. But then that's the problem, is like, I've tried to, and for my own life, I've seen this. You can compete, but who you compete with matters more than that you're competing at all. Mm-hmm. I mentioned a story. I don't know if it's in my book, but I know I've put posts on it in that, where in my little redneck town, I was staying in the dorms, and there was two large groups from my high school. There was some that came there, joined the volleyball team, were the athletes. I used to party with them all the time. We'd always go to the bar, flirt with girls. And then there was the other group of guys that they always had Ford Focuses, and they'd put carbon fiber hoods and exhaust manifolds. And it was funny because they were always in the parking lot across from the bar every weekend. And one of those guys would always be the winner because he had the best new part, or he could win on a quarter mile or whatever. And then they competed every weekend ruthlessly. But at the end of the day, there was no girls in that parking lot. Meanwhile, I'm there with the volleyball team, and dude, they'll blow you out. I'm 5'9". There's no way in hell I'm competing with the guys in the volleyball team for girls. But at least I was in the right game and competing properly. And so I've tried to explain this to people who are giving me that same grief you do. It's like, look, I can fight and debate you guys, but the thing about competition is, even if you compete with I use the R word, but I'll say a loser, then even if you win, you just become the best loser. So like, pick your battles.
Right.
And I think a lot of these guys would do themselves a huge service if they start aiming, not even aiming higher, but aiming better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I look at some of these before I started this show today. I was doing a little bit of homework, and I'm looking at some of these channels, and I'm looking at what are these super popular, like over 100,000 subs. That's what my benchmark, right? Because I'm just now approaching like 40,000 subs, and all of my subs are natural. None of them are bought or purchased or anything like that. It's just like, if you like me, great. But I look at some of these other channels, and it's not. I don't want to just pick on the MGTOW side of things here, because I see this also on the pickup artist side as well. So like, if I look at, like, we did that one
day game, especially those guys,
especially particularly, like, and I know we talked about 33 secrets. Again, I don't want to recover old material here, but like, if you go and you look at just the style of the thumbnails, the topics, the search terms, the tags, just how the titles of these things, the hashtags that go into it, are very particular, very specific. I think they seem random, right? I think that's really the art of being a successful YouTuber today. Hi guys, how's it going, guys? Right, and we're back. But there's a science to it, so it doesn't, like, people are more attracted to stuff that looks like it's made like by a 6-year-old or somebody who's still in grade school. Look, mommy, I made this great thumbnail. That's because it seems like, for whatever reason, for more people think that it's authentic if you use some really crappy, default font set and, throw it in red, white, and black. That's pretty much the only colors that people respond to. And then, title it things like I was saying before, like I'm again, jokingly, I'm like, last Sunday, I'm like, this is why you suck with women. Outrageously popular.
Oh yeah, that's clickbait as hell.
And here's the sad part. Here's the red meat part. The reason why it's popular, the reason why I get more eyeballs on the screen, is because that's what people are typing into the search engine to figure out for themselves. They're not typing in Rollotomassi or the rational male. I mean, maybe some of them are, but they're typing in more general things like, why do I suck with women? How do I get my girlfriend back? Why men aren't, MGTOW forever, blah, blah, blah. Those are the terms that people are looking for because they want red meat. They want their insecurities. They want their suspicions about themselves. They want that destitution and that the despondency, that nihilism.
Talk to me like your French girls.
Yeah, they want that reaffirmed. And so what happens is, guys, they learn just enough about the stuff that I've been talking about, you've been talking about, anything that's in my book for a while, and they'll distort it just a little bit because that is what's going to appeal. That's what's going to get eyes on the screen, because at the end of the day, these guys don't give a shit about you. They honestly don't care about you. They care about the eyes on the screen. They care about you buying the coffee cup with the damn logo on it. Or they care about you buying whatever it is that they're doing. This right here, this channel, this whatever, this isn't about, like, people ask me, why, Rollo, how come you don't have any merchandise? Because I'm not about to, I could make really kick-ass merchandise. I think I could probably do some really good merchandise.
Oh, easily.
That's not the point of this. Like, I want to educate guys. I didn't get in this because I'm like, all I got to do is tell these guys what they want to hear and give them junk food and reaffirm everything that they want to hear. And I can pay the rent. How cool is that?
And then, to be fair on this too, it's not like I particularly like any of you either. Don't take it personally, but I just really don't like bullshit.
Yeah.
So I won't bullshit you because I like you, but just because I hate it. And that's the difference, I think.
Well, and so my point about this is the red meat for the red pill right now is it's just enough red pill information to make you depressed, to keep you in that position, to keep you on this side of the abyss. and I've said this before, is like what I hope guys will do is there's a process. Like I've got an essay called the 5 stages of unplugging, which is really the 5 stages of dealing with grief. Because what you've done is you've killed off your old self, the old blue pill you that used to believe in all of this stuff. And then now you have to go through this sort of process. Part of that is anger. Part of that is despondency. And then hopefully you cross over that abyss and you realize that in a red pill paradigm, that there's a lot of opportunity there, because now you're working with an accurate estimation of what's going on. You have the tools. You can rebuild yourself. You can rebuild your life. If you so choose to get with women, you can do that however you want to rearrange and do things. That's what I'm hoping you will do. Take the noose off of your neck and say, you know what, I can be a better version of myself, because now I have accurate information. Now I have the tools that I didn't have before, and now I can save my own damn life and rebuild my own damn life. But you know what happens is, guys, there's a lot of money on you staying on this side of the abyss, on you going, oh, I'm never gonna get a girlfriend, I'm never gonna get laid. You know, it's this doom pill. You know, it's gloom, doom, black pill. I'm never gonna look like that. I'm never gonna, because all women want is just this good-looking guy, and all they want is the Chad with the, you know, the chiseled jawline, and I'll never do that.
The lights and sounds from a one-armed bandit hooking you for another quarter.
Yeah. And so what happens is I'll tell you this, is if that's where you want to stay, if you're watching this and you love the give me more, I want more red meat. If that's what you want, do me a favor. When people ask you how you came to that, tell them Coach Greg Adams, or tell them that, you know, 33 Secrets guy, or tell them that whoever, you know, that you listen
to. Dragging you into it.
Tell them that you are the man you are today because of Face and LMS. Please do that. Don't tell them Rollotomassi told you to do that. Tell them that those guys told you to do that. Because I'm getting a little sick of people saying, hey, you know, Rollo said that women can't actually love you. No,
I know,
like, somebody took that and distorted that. That's
how do you lose interest in a sentence? You can't even read the second half of it.
Yeah.
That's like number one from you is like, women can't love you the way you want them to.
Or hypergamy.
Which is essentially a poetic way of telling guys not to be super needy and that there's a reason why it's bad. That's all it is.
Well, I listen to, like I said, and again, I hate to use him as the butt of another joke, but like when I listen to 33 Secrets guy, it's like I'll hear him use my terminology. I said this in the other show, but then he distorts it to sort of be whatever he wants it to be. Like he'll use the term open hypergamy as if it's like a verb. I'm like, no, dude, you go back and read that post, and if you're going to use my material, at least quote me accurately. Because what's happening is you're giving these guys red meat, and they go, well, Rollo says that hypergamy is a straitjacket and I'll never get out of it. No, I didn't. In fact, I've written that's another thing is, and part of my show notes here is like people want to say that the red pill is inherently negative, and it's not. It's just how you use it and how you choose to interpret it.
Oh, that's the day game argument. Well, why can't you guys say nice things about women? It's like, it's not my job to tell you how great she is. That's her job.
No. Well, here's the thing is I don't say nice things about women, and I don't say bad things about women. You know what I say? I say real things about women. And if you decide that the real thing, you can debate. I'll be happy to debate you on whether I'm accurate in my assessment of men's nature or women's nature, or of the nature of intersexual dynamics, or the nature of anything that's in my books. I'll be happy to debate you on that. But the thing is if you are already of the mind that if I say certain things about women that are unflattering about their nature, and you think that that's negative, I can't help you. There's nothing that I can do.
Hey, you can't logic out of an emotional argument. That's it.
Connotation. That's why when I use terms like I'll say, you know, men approach love idealistically and women approach love opportunistically. Opportunistic? He said that we can't love. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I try to choose my words very carefully, and I try to at least say, you know, put a pretext of some kind ahead of that so people don't get that impression. But when somebody tells somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody, then it turns into, well, Rollo said that people can't love each other. I'm going back home. Let me look at this guy. He says, LTR for almost 3 years. We broke up. I practiced game and had finally had results. I enjoy time with women, but don't believe in love anymore. Is that normal? Well,
define love.
I'm going to tell you why you don't believe in love right now. Because you think of love in terms of how men approach love. Men and women are different. Here, get that, okay? For women, men approach love idealistically. Women approach love opportunistically. And the problem that most guys have is they think, well, if a woman can't love me idealistically, then she doesn't really love me. That's where they go, and they sort of distort that, rather than saying, well, here's the thing: is I understand she's about opportunism, and she needs to understand that I'm about idealism, and we need to find some sort of common ground so that we can actually have a loving, healthy relationship between the two of us. Yes, women can still love you. The problem is guys go, well, they become very single-minded about it. They say, well, if she can't love me the way I want her to, and that was actually my term, which is women fundamentally lack the capacity to love a man in the way that he thinks that she should be able to love him. That was the whole quote. Not, oh, he said he can't love me. No, it is in the way that you believe that she should be able to. And why do you believe that? Because you've been conditioned by the blue pill to think that that's actually a possibility.
And that's the thing. When you read into that sentence, where are you placing, for lack of a better word, where are you placing the fault in that? Is it the girl can't love you, she's defective? Or is it that the guy has unrealistic expectations? And it's funny how people will take that sentence, isn't it? And they're like, they assume you're talking about women. That's where they went with it. And that reminds me of, you know, the old classic, like, you know, we're not sleeping together tonight, that a girl will throw out on the first date when she's been thinking about sleeping with you. It makes me wonder why reading that sentence, which is very clearly the fault of a guy's expectations, and they assume you're doing that to rag on women, kind of lets you know where the mindset's at.
Right.
Makes you almost think these aren't even arguments, but more like these self-pep talks to convince themselves of something else.
Right. Well, people want to stay where they're at. A lot of people, I mean, misery loves company, right? That's why we call it commiseration. They want to stay together. They want to have their team. They want to sit in a group, in a room full of guys who all share the same, you know, things that they believe in, and they want to bounce the same ideas off of each other and have sort of reaffirmation of their ideas. What?
Just like testicular cancer meetings on Fight Club.
Yes.
It's okay without our balls. We're still men.
And what is the new book called, and where to get it? Thanks, guys. Great show.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat. It's called Fuck Files. It's a play on Fuck Boy.
Hey,
and
put it in the chat again. I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat.
We need to
just came out. It's already top 100 in love and romance books. It was 118 before it even got released. I'm very proud of that. At this rate, it's going to be #1 in about 4 days. So get in there while you can.
What did this guy say? He says, Rollo, there are some good recent videos by Sam Vaknin. I have no idea who that is. Richard Grannon knows him.
That's why I know Richard Grannon. That name sounds familiar.
Deep into intersectional dynamics and red pill thought in a new way. Definitely check it out. All right, I'll be happy to look it up. But you know, and that's another thing is, so you've got those guys. What is this? Rollo, do the merch with the Greyhound. Oh, okay, I could do that. That I might do. That I would probably do. Merch for a Greyhound charity or for an adoption. I would do that.
I'm curious how you would integrate a pill with a Greyhound and not get sued by Greyhound, the bus company. That'd be pretty cool to watch. See what those comprehensives are you put out.
Yeah. Would they take it better if you said women love conditionally or situationally? The reason okay, here's the thing. I did think about that. I thought about like conditions, but that's the problem with it. And this was the first thing that people had a problem with was, well, you think that, or men just believe that women should love them unconditionally. No, pretty much every man I've ever met understands that women love them conditionally. There's no such thing as unconditional love. And they have a burden of performance. And it's not that they want to get back, crawl back inside the womb and get back with mommy again. It's that they believe that love should exist for the sake of it. That they should be loved. Most guys, when they think of idealistic love, they think of love in terms of having a woman love them irrespective of their burden of performance or how well they perform according to their burden of performance. So in a way, yes, conditionally, but then what people do is they take that and they turn it into a binary extreme. So it's like, well, you think that women can love you unconditionally or conditionally? That's never going to happen. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. So that's why I said idealistically, because we have this sort of, we turn love, particularly in the blue pill side of things. Emotion is magic.
Mm-hmm.
Magic.
Magic was mysteries thing. We'll leave it there.
The reason I'm talking about, like, if you guys saw last Sunday's, if you have not seen last Sunday's show about instinct, emotion, and reason, and yes, I baited you with that thumbnail. Thank you very much. The reason for that is because it's a very important topic, and I will return to it at some point too, because I don't think I did it justice, and that was almost a 3-hour live stream, and yes. Message received. I know you guys don't like me going over 2 hours is like too much for you guys. So I'm actually going to cut this one short at 90 minutes today, which we're not at yet. But emotion is not a magical thing, although as much as everybody would like to turn it into that, it's something I dig into and I explore in book. I'm exploring in book 4 right now. I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to put instinct, emotion, and reason into book 4. If I do, it's going to be more of an abbreviated rather than a long, expanded idea of it, because the book is getting really big right now.
What make it a series, make it a 2-parter. Pull the Hobbit on that shit.
It's already a 4-parter, man. Let me see.
Right back here. Yes, red meat bothers me because it's a coping mechanism. That's the big thing, and that's just from like me to the audience side. If you're seeing things that reinforce the way you want to look at the world, and the way you're looking at the world isn't helping you in some goal-oriented fashion, you're just sulking. It's no different than video games. Remember when you said, what was that quote you had? If it's not Xbox and Weed, it would have been something else.
Would have been something else.
Well, we got our something else.
Yeah, that's the something else. Yeah,
guys are doing no fap. Guys are putting away the Xbox. Guys aren't doing weed anymore. Guys aren't drinking. Now what are they doing? Rage bait, trash, reality TV.
Right. What is the something? What is your something else? If it's, like I said, it's not video games and jerking off, it's God, or it's nofap, or it's politics, or it's something else, right? That, and it becomes that substitute for for what for it fills that void, I guess, is a better way to put it. Let's see. Santiago says, "Sup, Rollo, what's your take on 33 Secrets, Gawd?"
Oh, did you just arrive? Welcome.
Entire show on that one. I don't want to
put it this way. He's the cheap Chinese knockoff of Rollo's work with like substandard materials that'll catch fire and has lead inside, and they up the nitrogen count to kill dogs, basically.
Well, my problem is it's in the same vein. I would say this about anybody else doing this from a pickup artist side. It is red meat for the red pill. He still throws out stuff like, here's three things that you have to know about, when your girlfriend cheats on you. My girlfriend's going to cheat on me. Yes, she's going to cheat on you. Oh my God. And it's this fuel. And I wanted to point this out too, and I'm glad we started bringing this guy up too, because, and again, I've always been of the opinion, that the red.
When you edge.
Am I okay? I'm maybe a little bit. I've always, but I'm not going to say anything that you don't know. I've always said that the red pill needs to be red pill needs to be open source. Guys need to, but here's the problem: is when you have open source, the open source gets corrupted sometimes, right? The open source turns into something that it was never meant to be in the first place. Now, I always said I want people to take my work and use it as a starting point, but the problem now is that they're taking it as a starting point and they're not invested in it, in the red pill or in bettering guys' lives. That's not their point. Their point is eyeballs on the screen. Their point is to trigger indignation in guys. I've done several essays, and I've done a whole video on how women have an innate need for indignation. The problem is now that we have raised boys as if they're defective girls, those defective girl boys need indignation too. And they've been taught that emotion is magic and emotion is everything. And as I was saying last Sunday, what we've taught actually several generations of boys now is to invert the instinct, reason, and emotion into instinct, emotion, and reason, which is the way that most girls, their natural proclivity, most females, their natural proclivity is this is the process: instinct, emotion and reason, and we teach
Mhm.
boys that emotion is better than reason. And so as a result, we get a demographic of guys who, as you say, are sheep looking for a shepherd. They're looking for that. Why do we have the Lost Boys generation? That Lost Boys generation happens to be the generation that was little boys raised as defective girls. And now those little boys are now defective women. They've been,
Yep.
those young men are now defective young women now. And so they prioritize that emotional high. I'm doomed. And it's in a negative connotation.
Yeah, and if you want any example of this, watch how Karen is acting right now during this pandemic. Absolute panic and the most ridiculous scale.
Mm-hmm.
So you're essentially seeing flat out what guys are doing on a smaller level here.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
NEO says, Rollo, if your work were Infinity Stones, book 1 would be the Reality Stone. Okay. Keep going, man. Give me some more. Book 2 is the Time Stone. Yeah, I guess it is. Book 3 is the Mind Stone. Book 4 is the Soul Stone. So what would be, isn't there?
What do you have to give up to get that one?
It is 5 or 4 Infinity Stones. I forget.
It's 5.
Your Twitter equals the Space Stone. Yeah. And the blog is the Power Stone. Snap finger equal good life. Thanks for your work. Well, thank you.
So what's the Hulk then in all this? We're gonna do the Infinity Stones. We might as well get the Avengers out there. We're gonna make Pat Stedman. I don't know.
Yeah, and I also know what happened to Iron Man at the end of that movie too. So,
yeah,
and when he used all of them together. What does Johnny B say? He says, thanks for the great content. One of the key steps on my red pill path was accepting the burden of performance instead of complaining about it. Good for you. Mm-hmm. There is, and that's another thing, man. It's like when I say the burden of performance, people go, well, what about the challenge of performance? How come it can't be? I was like, okay, whatever.
Now we're back to that masturbatory back patting term. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I called it burden of performance because only men have that burden of performance, not women. Women are, men must become. There you go. Very simple. Oh, it's a challenge. Well, good. It's awesome. Stay optimistic. I hope you do. But that's just what I called it. It's not because, well, I wonder if Rollo is he's just naturally negative and cynical and pessimistic. No, that's just what I called it.
But imagine that though, if you actually gave people what they wanted, this hedged PR, HR approved, feel good statement, it would lose what it has, because that's, again, back to bullshit. Everybody's getting bullshit from everybody. Nobody wants unless somebody wants something from a guy, they will not care about what he does, whether he lives or dies. So everybody says what they need to say to get you to do what they want you to do. And there's something about it that at least gravitated towards me, or I gravitated towards, where it wasn't sugar coated. It wasn't trying to make me feel good. And it was missing that ham-fisted manipulation to it. Like if you had called it, and I know there's guys that do that, girls can't love you because something is wrong with them and you're special and it's a challenge, not a burden. All that stuff is designed just to make me feel good. And the problem with feeling good is guys who feel good don't do sweet FA. No, they don't. Like, that's the thing. Remember that Tanner was asking during a Central Florida convention that's since defunct.
Really?
Yeah, it's long story.
So far,
like everybody talks about how you had to go through the anger phase. Every guy has to have a phase where he's super angry, experiences a trauma, increases neuroplasticity, allows him to actually observe the world realistically instead of what his mental models were in the past. And he goes, is there a way to do it without that? And to this day, I'm still convinced that there isn't. So by softening it, you're denying a guy that ability to go from the anger phase to any type of self-reflection, self-awareness, and heaven forbid, any amount of work. And this is why I don't like nihilism being used as a pejorative, saying we're nihilistic, because nihilism is just boiled down to its essence. The old gods, you killed the old gods, you live in a bit of despair, and then you get out of it and you develop your own new gods. Basically, life has no meaning, so life has no meaning. I'll make up whatever life meaning I want. It's a very subjective self-actualization. And that's why I hate when people use it, because I'm like, dudes, you're ignoring like the main reason for that.
Yeah, I think when it yeah, well, there's so much to sort of unpack in all this too, because I'll get guys who, especially if they attack, like there's three, well, actually more than three, but there's at least three basic guys that will attack me just to like, there's the guy who wants to hit me because I'm the biggest guy in the schoolyard or the biggest guy in the prison yard, and he wants to prove that he's got balls, and so he just like throws rocks at me. He doesn't care like that he's completely misinterpreting me. Or if I read something that they say that I said, I go, you have not read anything that I've written. How do you know that? Well, because you wouldn't have, this wouldn't even come out of your brain if you had. So what that says to me is that this guy is intellectually lethargic. Then you've got the guys who are like the believers, right? Usually this is the tradcons, the patriarchs, the more religious minded guys who came across and this is what I'm writing about in book 4. They came across the red pill because they were looking for what happened to all the men. How come there's no men in my church? Or how come there's no real men? Or men need to man up. It's the man up guys, right? It's the personal responsibility. Like from a traditional conservative, there's one thing that defines traditional conservatives, and it's the belief in personal responsibility. And anything that challenges that makes you less than a man, or makes you less than a person. Like if you think that they hate on the red pill, they love the red pill up to a point, and that point is this: is that if the red pill starts sounding too deterministic, particularly if it's like biologically or evolutionarily deterministic, they hate that because it sounds like the devil made me do it. It sounds like, I wasn't in control of, or it's like, it sounds like I am trying to do two things. One of them is make men the victims and to absolve women, because if they're hypergamous, then they can't help their actions. And which is funny to me because the same traditional conservative guys, they will tell me this. They'll say, well, women don't actually have moral agency, but yet they still should be held responsible for, they still should be held personally responsible for their actions. Well, what is it? Do they have agency or whatever? And then they'll say, well, it's men's fault that women aren't as good as they could be. Women would be better if men would be better. If men would just man up and take more responsibility, in spite of having no authority, then women would be better. If you would just,
and I think that's the key. It's not personal responsibility, it's personal servitude.
Yeah.
Because for most red pill guys, there's personal responsibility up the ass, but it's for ourselves. It's more rational egoism, responsible for the consequences of my actions and the benefits that come to me. But that's not good. No, not unless you're doing it for her.
And exactly. And the tradcon side of things also, I don't want to say that the red meat for the red pill is just like MGTOWs, or it's just like guys like, the more mercenary PUAs. It's also on tradcons too. The tradcons will throw that out there because there is a demographic of guys who want to beat themselves up or be beaten up by guys in a moralistic perspective. They want to say,
the Catholic confession syndrome.
Exactly. If it's like Stockholm syndrome almost. I got to come back. I got to identify with my captor, or I got to take the beatings, because if I do, then I'll be a better person. I need to find out. It's not so much that they're sheep trying to find a shepherd. They're like soldiers trying to find a drill sergeant. Is what they're
dude, you should I bet you anything you saw this in So Suave too. We actually had to make it a rule in the Married Red Pill because there was just like a swath of guys that would lay out their sob story, and at the end, because I started dropping F-bombs, calling guys bundles of sticks, like as the drill sergeant thing, eventually guys took it as a point of pride. They're like, please call me one, call me a bundle of sticks. And I was like, you're really missing the point. The point isn't just to be thought of as a horrible human being, which absolves your responsibility. So we actually had to like full out ban guys asking to be whipped.
Oh, really?
To absolve for their sins. Yeah. Cause it was like, dude, it's no point. Like we can berate people, but it's not fun.
They're the old school flagellants. That's what happened back in the Middle Ages, was they would go whip themselves because they had an impure thought or whatever. They whip themselves with a stick. Right? They're flagellants. They want that. They want that pain, and because that, brings purity or whatever else. I didn't even know where that comes from, because that's a mentality, and it's obviously something that a lot of guys are into. Well, and women too are into some sort of self punishment because they think that will make them better. And I don't know where exactly that. I mean, maybe that's real Freudian. I don't know.
And then the worst is they're Protestants too. And didn't Martin Luther start the Protestant Reformation? Because he was tired of people asking for indulgences, this exact thing we're talking about.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Martin Luther, because he is a key character in my 4th book.
Oh, did you bring up the doing the maid thing when the girl's dead bedroomed?
No, I have not on that one, but.
Oh, that's too bad. Slide it in there for me. That's my favorite line from any theologian ever.
Put that in our Twitter DM so I can look that up, actually.
All right, I'll pull it up. All right, I'm going off camera for a sec, so I got to lean in and talk.
All right. So that's the other thing I was going to say is that, so there's the traditional, the tradcon mindset, which is, Rollo's bad because he never talks about morality, or he's not positive enough. He doesn't talk about the good things. And when I get run up the flagpole from the red meat from the conservative side, or the tradcon side, or the moralist side, it's almost always because, oh, you're not positive enough. And then when I go over and I talk to like sort of the MGTOW side, then it's, well, Rollo's too optimistic. Rollo thinks that you can just out alpha the state, man. And they're like almost the exact polar opposite. So for guys who are getting red meat from like Face and LMS, or red meat from Turd Flinging Monkey, or whoever your red meat supplier is on that side, it's, well, Rollo's too optimistic. He's married, so don't listen to anything he says. He has a successful life, so and a beautiful daughter and a gorgeous wife, and he's been married for 24 years. So there must be something wrong with him. So don't listen to him. And so it's like the opposite. It's the opposite side. And I know what is it? Forget what his name was. I'm sorry, I probably missed you. Oh, here it is. May says, you're going to make fun of me, but there's actually 6 different types. Well, maybe there is, but I'm sort of distilling it down to these guys. And then you get the guys who are the pickup artists, or the guys who are the success porn grifters. And suddenly I am not enough of a hustler. And I think I've pretty much covered that side of things pretty well ever since, let's see, May of last year, where I've said there's a difference between hustle and the truth. And sometimes hustle outperforms the truth. The hustle is more profitable than the truth is. So when I was back in the day, back in 2014, 2015, when I was pointing out that an organization like Real Social Dynamics was leaning more towards success porn, or they were leaning more towards the Tony Robbins, power of positive thinking kind of grift, which is as old as the hills. You can go back to Dale Carnegie. What was the other guy? There was a guy before Dale Carnegie, and his name something Quimby, I can't remember, something in the 1800s, but it was all about just think and grow rich, or think that. I know that's Napoleon Hill. He's also part of that as well. But it's the people don't realize that's how old that grift is. And then when I start talking about objective truths, those objective truths are bad for that business. And so then to those guys, the power positivity guys, whether they're religious or not, then I'm an asshole because I'm saying, have you thought about this? And suddenly people are bringing the rational male up to the seminars at RSD that are starting to look like Tony Robbins gatherings. And they say, what did you think? Owen Cook, what do you think about this book? What do you think about what Rollo said? And now suddenly, oh, it's truth, but it's truthful anger. And you're wrong because you're angry, which is, of course, what everybody uses. And it's like, no, it's truth. It's as objectively as I can make it. And the way that you interpret it makes it bad or it makes it good. So where are you coming from that? And this is hard. I've talked about this before. I don't know if did you pick that up? The problem I run into is that, and I've mentioned this in several podcasts, is that the red pill there's no elevator pitch for the red pill. You have to get into it, and you have to get your hands dirty. You have to get into it and be prepared to change yourself. You have to get into it and start reading and educating yourself. It's not a
weekend seminar.
Not a weekend seminar, man. It's not a community college class. It is like, doctoral thesis stuff. Okay. There's so much to it. I mean, you think about all the subfields that are involved in the stuff that we talk about. There's evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology, there's behavioral psychology, there's just general psychology, there's sociology, there's anthropology, there is history, if you want to get into that. Sometimes we can even talk about like the brain. We're talking about brain synapses and things like that. There's neurology. You think about all of the things that sort of contribute to the praxology that is the red pill. You just don't. It takes effort. It takes intellectual concentration. You have to invest yourself in understanding this to have. It
takes replicatability too.
And this generation, the TLDR generation, the too long didn't read generation, they got no patience for it. Mm-hmm. And I feel pretty proud of myself to, like, I was showing you guys the numbers. Like, my average watch time on this channel is 30 minutes. That is freaking great for a 2-hour video. That is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Have that.
Even YouTube, they say 60%. If you can get 60% watch time, you're in like the top 5% of content creators.
Yeah. And yeah, so if you can keep people's eyes on the screen, but the only way you do that today is with red meat. Is telling guys like your life is gonna suck, and we're all here to stay in our hug box and cry together, and to plot how we're going to be incels for the rest of our lives, or plot how we're going to repeal the 19th, or sit here and you know what? As long as those are there, and as long as people keep eating, they'll keep feeding you, because it requires more. It requires you to be invested in it. If you want to understand this, if you want to have a better rounded life, I'm sorry, but that's just how it works. There is no easy way of doing things. There's no magic pill.
Yeah. Well, here, did you want me to read through that quote?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Dude, I love this one so much. Our spouse may rob and withdraw himself or herself from the other and refuse to grant the conjugal due or to associate with the other. One may find a woman so stubborn and thick-headed that it means nothing to her, though her husband fall into unchasteness 10 times. Then is time for the man to say, if you are not willing, another woman is. If the wife is not willing, bring on the maid. But this is only after the husband has told his wife once or twice, warned her, and let it be known to the other people that her stubborn refusal may be publicly known and rebuked before the congregation. If she still does not want to comply, then dismiss her. Let an Esther be given to allow Vashti or whatever go as did King something or other. I love that quote because that's essentially
AF.
Yeah, and everybody's like, these aren't brand new concepts. This is God knows how many thousands of years old, and I just happened upon this thing when I was looking up like stuff we were already doing. That's how dread works, essentially.
Yeah.
Minus the public shaming, because that doesn't matter anymore. If you were to tell your whole church your wife isn't doing you, then people would offer to give you some like new dish gloves to wash better with.
And I'll tell you what's funny about that is, like, in this day and age, if you were to even paraphrase that in some way, in most evangelical churches, they would like, awesome, you'd be out. That's how you'd be done.
Oh, dude, that's the problem. Finding that quote is hard, because if you type that in to search for it, it's 99% Catholic bloggers trying to discredit how it was taken out of context. I don't know with how I'm going to do the maid is taken out of context, but I'd be glad to, but I don't have the time to read all their justifications. Took a lot of words to lawyer that one around.
So I got, Michael here says, how would you train the mental process of a defective boy man?
Self-esteem.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, well, that's the problem. A lot of guys think self-esteem is like how women get it, through validation. Through guys, it's through an iterative process. You do something, you achieve something. That victory is what builds your esteem, and you built it yourself. That's self-esteem for men. So as much as people say pickup is degenerate, yeah, talking your way into a girl's pants, sleeping with her, that becomes a small victory, adds a bit to your esteem. You go do that again. You make more money at work. But that's why, like you said, you can't just read this stuff. It's not a weekend seminar. You actually have to try things. And if they don't work, stop. But if they do work, you start to get into that feedback loop. And that's why men aren't women. We're not intrinsically valuable. And there's a part of us that knows that. Women are. So if you just tell a woman she's great, she'll eventually believe it. And that's her intrinsic worth manifesting itself in her self-esteem. But for us, you just have to earn it.
Yeah. You have to become. That's why. And the first thing I tell guys is you have to focus on mental point of origin. First off, I'm going to say that because really the process of making you a defective girl is to teach boys not to not make themselves their mental point of origin, to make women their mental point of origin, or serving others their mental point of origin, or whatever it is that makes them like useful. And the reason why that's so effective, and the reason why there are so many defective boys right now, is because, first of all, 80% of guys are going to be betas to begin with. If we take that and we know that that's going to be happening, how can we use that? How can we profit by that? I'm not just saying women do this, but men will do this as well. There's plenty of grifts that exploit I'll say insecurities, but exploit the idea, or exploit the the part of a man's sort of nature to want to be useful, to want to have a purpose. You want to know why there's the Lost Boys generation, or like why 12 Rules for Life became a multi-bazillion dollar bestseller. It's because those guys are looking for a purpose. Not because people say, well, they're looking for meaning. Well, you got to get to purpose before you can get to meaning. These guys have no purpose. There's nothing for them. They don't know how to be useful, and they're not rewarded for it. There's no
incentive.
Yeah, there's no incentive. There's no reciprocal exchange. And so you have this generation of guys like, well, where do I go? What do I do? And they don't care. They'll take whatever you give to them, whether it's red meat for the red pill, or Jordan Peterson, or whoever, maybe the church, maybe maybe the military, who knows?
Maybe a guy with a sex doll playing anime all day.
Yeah,
it's crazy how low the bar is to picking Dad 2.0.
But see, that's the thing, is you have to realize that if this is you, and I don't know that this is you, but how I would go about doing this is say, well, first of all, you need to change your mind about yourself. You need to realize that you have been, you right now, your personality and who you are is the result of I don't know however old you are, but it's of your lifetime of a blue pill conditioning that has brought you to the point where you are at today. You need to unlearn that which you have learned, Master Yoda. And you need to internalize new things. And that's the hard part, because people think, well, I'll just listen to Rollo and read his book, and then I'll magically be transformed into the guy that I want to be. No, no guarantees, man. I just give you tools. What you do with those tools is up to you. That's the problem.
And even if you fail, though, you're going to be a better person for it. That's fine. Getting dumped, getting cheated on, it's not a protection against that stuff. That's why I really wish people would quote it more. Everybody quotes saving the best because it's got that revenge porn red meat to it.
Love it. Oh, I can write red meat till I'm all day long, man.
But that's not my favorite of your articles. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Saving the best?
No, my favorite. That's the one that's everybody's favorite. My favorite is the safety net.
Oh, the safety net one is good. Yeah. I like that one. I come back to that one because honestly, when I was writing that, it was right before I published book 3, and I was looking for some kind of testimonials so that I could put them on the back cover of book 3. And that snowballed into probably now it's at least 1,200 different comments about how my books have sort of saved guys' lives, or how they're in a better place right now where they can experiment because they have the safety net. That's what I was saying. It's like the red pill gives you the leeway. It gives you the safety net to experiment so that you can build yourself and make yourself into something that's more. That's another thing that kills me is, man, I try. Honest to God, I have written essay after essay about that I think are more positive, hopeful essays. I have one called New Hope, which is in book 3.
And that's a Star Wars reference. That should have taken off.
Yeah, exactly. But what is the most trafficked post on the Rational Mail? The saving the best. Because that's what these guys want. They want.
It's a story of a guy who caught his wife's thottery. He wasn't getting none, and he decided to leave, and she was sad.
They love that. They eat it up because that's red meat. I'm not above red meat occasionally and it's not because that's the point. It's because I'm trying.
It's the game.
Point, right? I'm trying to get you guys to understand something rather than I wonder if I can sell more coffee cups with this. Right?
Yeah. The red meat matters. Rich just did a video with me where we had the 5 reasons you shouldn't be a simp. The reason it works is because it sells. There's the reason why we've all had our turns doing the how to be an attractive women post that everybody does. It's so predictably engaging. Even your conditional one. That's my favorite tweet of mine. Men value love, women love value. It's a completely nonsensical clickbaity statement. It just takes right off. And it's literally your unconditional love thing.
Oh yeah. Or you want more red meat? Here's more red meat. Whenever Rich does those little 6 articles that a woman should do to please a man, right? That's red meat. And it's not it might be red meat for some guys, but it's mostly red meat for women. It's real easy to feed women red meat. Oh man, all day long, because women look for indignation. Women have a biological, psychological, it's a part of their innate evolved mental firmware to look for indignation, to feel indignation about something, because that's how they feel alive. So that's why you get things like The Bachelorette or The Bachelor or Love Island or whatever the hell Donnie is covering these days. You want red?
Dear God.
That's red meat for the red pill. Sorry, Donnie, I love you, but that's red meat.
Yeah.
And here's the difference is that what, like the guys that you're watching, and hopefully like people will watch this and they'll come away with an idea here, is that, am I watching this because I get off on the indignation, or am I watching this because I actually learn something and I can use this as a tool to better my life in the future?
Yeah.
Like
Indignation, though, I love how you use that word.
Mm-hmm.
I have an article about power games on this, and it's kind of based on transactional analysis. I think you know that, the parent adult child model. If you put human interaction on two axes, one being like higher status, lower status, how you perceive yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and the other axis being whether I'm for you or against you, same team, opposite team. Indignation and submissiveness are, I'm considered myself less than you socially, and I'm either for you, submissive, or against you is indignation. And as much as you've said this, I don't need no man, this is the one thing I will put squarely on feminism's shoulders. I don't need a man, I'm strong and independent, completely removes doing anything with the expressed intent of the pleasure of a man. I'm misquoting you there. What's the quote?
Well, the prime directive of feminism is never do anything for the express pleasure of a man. That's the prime directive of like the strong, independent woman meme.
Right. So completely removes the quadrant for submissiveness. I'm on your team and I think you're higher status than me. So what is left but indignation? You still have this insecurity, this biological insecurity. I'll never be able to beat a man in a fight. I can't cut it in corporate world. And as much as they brag about how they're doing all right, I mean, we all kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
Most women can't compete with the top echelon of men because that's the only ones they care about anyway. So you remove submissiveness and all that's left is indignation. And is it any wonder that that's all we get right now are these like feminine archetypes of completely prickly women that nobody wants?
Mm-hmm.
That's all that's left.
I get and I think you did too last weekend. Like I forget what we were talking. We were talking about shame or something like that. And I yeah, man, not a video goes by or not a show here goes by where I get some guy, probably usually MGTOW, sorry to say, but usually MGTOW go, well, you guys are shaming men. That's just what I expect from women. You're shaming us. Or you're using the same tactics shaming us. And it's like, no, I'm kicking you in the ass because you need an ass kicking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you can't understand the difference between somebody who is actually trying to help you with discipline and somebody who's bullying you because you've been brought up as a defective girl. And I would say that most of those guys in that demographic and in this generation have been brought up as defective girls, and then now they're just sort of becoming aware. They're becoming red pill aware, and so as a result, because they haven't really matured past that or understand anything from a conventionally masculine perspective, they still see things in terms of like a female perspective. Now, how do I know that? Well, just what I was just saying a minute ago is indignation. Indignation is something that women crave. They need it. It's part of that whole thing. Well, you can teach boys if things are from a social side of things, if things are feminine correct, if the way that women do things are the correct way, then they must also be into indignation as well. What is the number one way to trigger indignation in women? To trigger them, you have to say, well, there's the suspicion. Suspicion is the number one way to trigger women. So if you can, like, if you go and you watch like these daytime talk shows, or if you look at another great one was like, remember when Julian Blank decided to like renounce his Playboy ways, and he decided that I forget what show he went on, but or Tucker Max, or these guys who go like really hardcore purple pill, where they say, well, I was red pill, but now I've seen the light, and I guess you ladies are actually right. Then they want to know about all of their escapades. They want to know the truth. They want to know, like, is the guy cheating? Or why is something like Love Island or the
Is he the father?
Is he the father, right? Or he's a cad. And again, this goes back to women's existential fear, which is the existential fear of women is to be tricked by a beta into thinking that you are an alpha and to have your child. And if that's how you stimulate indignation in women, is you have to find some way to trigger that existential fear. Oh, is he really who he says he is? That's really all like Love Island and The Bachelor is predicated on, is stoking that existential fear of women. Like, oh, is he really the alpha? No, he's really a beta. Is he really a cad? No. Is he really a nice guy? Is he real? And it's trying to use that feminine intuition to figure out the truth. That's what I call the hypergamous filter, is to find out if this guy's signals are honest signals, they're honest cues, or they are dishonest cues. Well, guess what? When you are a young man, when you are a boy who was raised as a defective girl, you get off on that too. Only the way you get off on indignation is, am I really a loser? Am I really worthless? Am I really somebody that, like, I'm never going to be the Chad that all these other guys are? Am I always going to be an incel? Am I always going to be this? And when somebody says, yes, 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 you are, you're doomed because, you know, women hate you. Oh, they do? Yeah, they hate you. Oh, okay. You know,
that's like the voice I use when I pretend my dogs are talking to me.
Yeah.
So you are going to have dinner? Oh,
but it's that same indignation need. Because it's been reinforced and reaffirmed in you as a defective young man or a defective young woman, and it's easy to make money on. You're predictable. It's very easy.
Well, not just that, you're dealing with limbic brain emotions, and that's when a guy is emotional, he bypasses that frontal lobe. That's when you can get selling stuff.
And just to put a period on this, so every time you say, well, Rollo, you guys are shaming us, we're using the same female tactics, the reason why you think that is because you're very well versed in what is feminine correct and what would be correct for women. And so you think that because I'm saying, here's some tools, use these to make your life a little bit better. Oh, I can't do that. I'm already resigned to my fate. I'm never going to be able to do something like that. Well, the reason why that triggers indignation in you is because you've been trained to be triggered by that, to want to feel that. Like, instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to do something about myself. It's not only is it easier, it's more satisfying to have somebody say, you're a loser. You suck. You're never going to be good with women.
And full disclosure, I strategically use shame because I know it's effective if I'm trying to achieve something. The kind of guy who's insecure, shame works perfectly on insecure guys. And sure, yeah, it's your baby. Trust me, I just know these things. That's shame just as much as me saying it. Me saying something else. The only difference is I don't want you to take care of my, single mom kid from Leroy. Sometimes, it's all just tools.
Now I'm gonna put a real fine point on this. How does Rollo know all this? How does Rollo possibly know all this stuff? And how does Ryan know this for Christ's sake?
Practice.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I know this, because I can see that it is a successfully marketed profit model, a la Alexander Grace, who we talked about last week. He's making money off exactly that. In fact, he's the middleman between you as the guy who wants women to tell you suck and the women who will be happy to tell you that you suck. So what he's doing is he's facilitating that indignation that these guys are craving from women who are just happy to take your money.
Did you see that Twitch stream? The girl that was berating guys for not donating enough?
Yeah, and you know what?
I'm wondering if she's cutting out the middleman.
Or you look at you look at the cam whore. I was talking about, the OnlyFans situation that's going on right now. You look at the OnlyFans. What was it? There's 3.5 million content creators for OnlyFans, and 60,000 new ones started in the month of March because it's a good profit model. Why? And why? Because some girl can say, well, you guys need to give me your $1,200 US stimulus check. Because you guys aren't giving. You need to dig deep in your pocket and send me your money.
Yeah, that used to be like evangelical mega church fundamentalists that were pulling that crap. Now it's just Stacy from down the way.
Suicidal tendencies. Send me.
Ooh, nice 90s reference. Yeah, nice 90s reference.
Yeah, a good song too. But look at the profit. Look at the profit model. You guys, here's the thing: is guys will throw rocks at me and get upset with me because I'm explaining objective truths, and they get upset because they think I'm kicking them in the ass. But then they don't get upset at a guy like Alexander Grace, who is just facilitating them getting their asses kicked, not by me, but by girls who they want to tell them the same thing. Whether it's the girl that's telling them, or it's Face and LMS, or it's Greg Adams, or it's 33 Secrets guy, or it's all these things. All it is confirmation of that same indignation that those guys want. So the reason you get off on that is because you've been trained in a female correct capacity to think that that's something that's going to make you feel good. And it's easier to sit there and take it on the chin than it is to get off your ass and go and do something and make something better of yourself.
And what's the first dying rule? Everything's about frame, isn't it? Either you're in yours or in somebody else's. Let me ask you this then. For the guy who's into all this stuff, loves being this reinforcement, loves people telling him these things, whose frame do you think that guy's in? Do you think he's in his own? Do you think he's his mental point of origin? Or do you think everybody else is feeding him what he wants to hear? That's the question. It's the same as another one of the red meat things we haven't talked about yet, the fight feminism nonsense. Mm-hmm. How sad of a man do you have to be to where you decide that your arch nemesis is some 45-year-old blue-haired fat chick that is poly-binary gender something or other?
What's the purple-haired chick from Star Wars? That's
the action figures that aren't selling.
I forget her name. Jedi Karen.
That makes me laugh so much.
Yeah. That's your nemesis. That's your nemesis. Yeah.
Yeah, why would you pick that? She's already insecure as hell that she can't compete with the kind of guys she wants to compete with. And you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to pick that loser and then lose a battle against her and then feel sulk about it later on. And yeah.
Well, and so, but here's the thing. So Ryan, I'm going to play devil's advocate because here's what people have asked me in the past. They've said, well, then how do we fight this? How do we change things? We got to wait for a meteorite or a pandemic to change the world.
Change the world. That's the thing. Don't change the world. Nobody can change the world unless you're Genghis Khan, and they don't exist anymore because we got nukes. You can change yourself. You can change all these problems like feminism, this, that. For the most part, it's all an opt-in problem. So if you really want to fight feminism, just stop opting in where you no longer want to opt in, where it's no longer beneficial for you. Lacey Green effect. Hardcore sex positive feminist.
Oh man.
Got a really good boyfriend, got some good dick. All of a sudden she red pilled.
Suddenly she's red pill.
You want to fight feminism one dick at a time.
Lacey Green is the female version of the purple pill. She's a female version of Tucker Max. Tucker Max, who lived the bad boy libertine lifestyle for so long, wrote books about I hope they serve beer in hell, knocked up the wrong girl, wouldn't have an abortion, had the baby. He's in I hope he's still married. And then his next book is Mating Mind or whatever the hell, and tries to.
Is that the one he did with Jeff Miller?
Yeah, the spins on a dime. Completely pivots to something else. It's the same thing.
How do those guys team up, by the way? PhD, evolutionary psychologist, frat boy. Like, where did that come from?
I don't know. Maybe they're all both in the poly. Who knows?
I'll lend you my wife. You lend me your book.
I won't dig too deep into that because I know that there's some dudes in the sphere who are into poly and they might be on that.
Yeah, and I think we disagree because you take it from the perspective that as a sexual strategy goes, it's just objectively bad, which you're not wrong. My perspective is
I think human beings are naturally promiscuous for sure.
Yeah. So that's well, I disagree in that I should care.
Oh.
Like it's his life to pick what he wants to. Okay. The problem I have, and I'll use Jack Murphy as the example. Remember that one floating around where he sent his girlfriend off to go screw around with a Tinder date so that way he didn't feel bad about him being open on his side. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, if you owned it, nobody would have a problem with it. Look, I was married for however many years. I got 2 kids. Everything that trad Jesus wanted of me, I did it. And if I want to live like a degenerate dirtbag the rest of my life, so what? I've paid my pound of flesh. And I'm like, that's all you have to say, and just shut it right down. Mm-hmm. Still wouldn't. It's like there's this nagging insecurity about it. There's like, it's the taboo part of it. You just can't accept that I'm going to do this because I'm going to do what I want and screw you. That would be the red pill thing. And then, yeah, the poly thing, maybe she'll leave. Maybe you'll get another one. You could deal with that as it comes along.
My problem, like, you want to go, let your freak flag fly, man. I mean, you want to poly, go, far be it from me to hold you back. My disagreement, if it is such, my analysis of poly is that guys who should know better don't, like, they want to cater what they know about human nature and evolutionary psychology. Like I'm talking about Jeff Miller. He's one of these guys who's very frustrating for me. I know he's blocked me, but I like Jeff Miller. I really do. I think he's done some good work, but I just think on this one particular issue, he twists what he knows about evolutionary psychology and human nature and human sexual nature to fit his mating strategy, which is sorry to say, but it seems to me like poly for most guys is a beta male mating strategy that has become popularized now because we live in a new order where women don't need beta males anymore. They need and so if they've got women have a soft harem of guys, basically is what it is. And you say,
yeah, and it's fine, but don't own it.
Yeah, I'll own it for sure. But it's my frustration is that just the same thing with Dr. Steven Pinker, with Dr. Warren Farrell, all these doctors, right? Dr. Warren Farrell, Dr. Jeff Miller.
Who's one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? Sam Harris.
Dr. Buss, Sam Harris, all these guys. They have this mound of evidence that's just sitting in their laps that points to one direction, and they go, "Nah, this is really where we need to be." No. So I have to sort of question why they, when everything that sits in their lap points one way, they go the other way. Why do they do that? Well,
why does a guy who smokes his whole life tells you, I know it's bad for me and I should quit?
Yeah.
At least those guys admit smoking is bad. Imagine this is like the smoker who's like, oh, I'm fine. It's just a little bit. And my dad lived till he was 80.
I realize I cannot express something. There's no such thing as objective truth because there's still going to be some part of you. I can do my best to have an obligation to objective truth, but people will always say, well, the reason that you are even obsessed, or you feel like you have an obligation, is because you have an ideology. You have an ideology, and that's a bias, and therefore
that nonsense.
It's like the chicken or the egg kind of argument. We're getting close here. I want to get to some of these before we go. Math Boy says, I watch a lot of Corey Wayne. What do you think about Corey Wayne?
Fuck, I don't yet. I gotta see more. Everybody keeps saying they came here from him. I had nothing about the guy.
I don't know anything. I don't know enough about the guy. Anyways, it seems to me like a guy. Was it Red Pill? Not Red Pill School. Red Pill Coach Red Pill or whatever.
Oh yeah, him.
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about him and Corey right now. I mean, they do they do attribute, but it's not even so much about attributes anymore. I'm more concerned these days when people ask me, what do I think about this coach? What do I think about that guy? I want to say this. What do you think about him? And what is he saying? Is he just giving you red meat all the time, or is he actually giving you what's under the hood? Is he actually explaining the mechanics to you, or is he just saying, do these things? Hey guys, what's up, guys? Here's 3 things that you got to do if your girl cheats on you. If that's every single one of their videos, you need to find somebody else.
Yeah. Well, what can you learn? That's the beauty of it. What do you learn when people say you should read this guy, watch this guy? If somebody says you should watch Rollotomassi, like, what does he do? I would say like hypergamy. You essentially got cornered the market on that. If I want to understand male-female dynamics, evolutionary psychology, that's fine. If you were to say me, probably boundary enforcement, narcissism. There's like a couple of things you could point to. Rich, being your best self, like building a business, that sort of thing, growing a beard. Like everybody has something specific that you can point to and say this is their content. For a lot of these guys, that's the problem, is I can't point to anything in specific. It's just vaporware. Yeah, you'll read your book, but I mean your book has an overarching point and they can't even make it.
Is there a channel based on red meat? I think is what it is, because a lot of guys want that. Unfortunately, I feel bad because it's like junk food, right? It's like it looks good and it tastes good and you're like, damn, I'm gonna nosh into this burrito supreme or whatever, and then like after you're done, you're like, you feel bad after it because is there nutritional value in what that guy is sending you? It feels good at the time. It's like pornography.
Or World Star hip hop videos. Oh, those are awesome.
She looks good, and oh boy, yeah. and you rub one out, and then afterwards you're just like, what the fuck was it? If that's the way you feel after you watch those guys, or you feel that way, or you don't feel like you've been like sort of like you're better off because you watched it. That's not on me. That's on you as the viewer. You have to be like, what are you like? I would ask this: what are you looking for on YouTube? What are you typing into search engines when you're looking for this guy? What obviously these guys probably subscribe to them, of course, but like, what are you looking for in those dudes? What are they telling you, and why do you keep coming back to them? Why do you keep going back to porn? Why do you keep going back to alcohol? Why do you keep going back to things that make you is it because it makes you feel good, or is it because you are a better person, or you have tools to make yourself a better person afterwards? That's something like when you rate a teacher, like if you go to college, they have those rate my teacher kind of things. How would you rate these guys? How would you rate me? How would you rate Ryan? How would you rate all these guys as teachers, not as, oh, it felt good when at the time I got my indignation fix. I got my red meat, right? Mr. C says, Jordan Peterson seems to have dropped off the face of the earth. Never heard anything about him these days. I know he's doing a few little quick hit things. I think he's out of rehab now.
Yeah. Really. But the wife's still, like, she's still not feeling so hot. So
yeah. Rollo, have you read Atlas Shrugged? Yes, I have.
Is it worth the read? I keep hearing people talk about it.
Yeah, but okay, here's the thing. How old are you now? In your 40s?
Almost.
Yeah, you can read it. Don't read Atlas Shrugged when you're 18.
Oh, so this is like reading Karl Marx as a teenager.
Yeah, you will. Don't read it when you're 18, because if you're 18 or you get into college or whatever, and you check this out, man. I'm an objectivist. I love Ayn Rand, and I think a lot of people go through sort of a phase when it comes to Ayn Rand. And if you read it, I didn't read Ayn Rand until I was in my 40s. And I understand why, like, if you're an idealistic kind of guy, or if you're a young guy, I understand why you would turn into a libertarian right after that. Let's just say. Fair
enough. Yeah, unfortunately, I was the Chomsky and Howard Zinn phase in college. So
yeah, I had educators who. Oh, what's that song you play at the start? That's something that I put together. Thank you very much.
It's called "Bitches Ain't Shit" by Rollotomassi.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't heard it yet. Is that like a chorus pedal on your Ibanez? Are you going full 80s with it?
Oh, it's the. Sorry, I can't fast forward it through.
Oh, that's annoying.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Oh, yeah, this one.
Is this not why you are here?
There you go.
That is the chorus pedal on your Ibanez. That's awesome.
In there too.
Dude, that's got a Van Halen vibe to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm just picturing you right now with spandex Zubaz pants kicking the air with that.
I'm pretty good with Logic Pro, or what's a Logic X? What's the Logic Pro? I'm pretty good at that right now. I've graduated from GarageBand to Logic Pro, courtesy of coronavirus. Let's see, what do we have here? Dave Gasly says, Rollo, again, still pretty new here, so forgive me. What's the goal with what's the end goal with everything? Not to die.
Yeah.
What does a successful marriage look like to you? Well, one where you're still getting laid. That's a successful marriage to me, where it still is good. While you are in a complementary relationship where you can be conventionally masculine and your wife understands she's conventionally feminine, where your ambition as a man is what directs that marriage. I don't even think necessarily, he said, what's the end goal? What's the end goal with everything? I don't think it doesn't have to be marriage. I mean, I know Ryan's not married, but he's in a long-term relationship. Yeah,
11 years, common law marriage. The state decided, no, you're not getting out of it this easy.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't. I wouldn't. People say, well, is that success? Because if you're promoting marriage, then it means that you're a blue pill guy. I've never promoted marriage. In fact, it's interesting. It's like I will get from talking about red meat for red pill. I will get it from the MGTOW side of things. They don't listen to Rollo because he's been successfully married for 24 years, has a great daughter who is graduating this year, magna cum laude, and has a 24-year marriage, is still married and happy and has made things work in a red pill perspective, but don't listen to him because he's married. Yeah. And then I'll get guys on the TradCon side who say, don't listen to Rollo. All he ever talks about is hypergamy, and he just thinks that a successful man just spins plates and gets laid all the time. I was like, I can't win.
Can't win for losing.
Cannot win.
Well, here, one thing too for op. Here's the problem. See, that's a sheep in search of a shepherd question. What do I value? What do I think? And that's the wrong question. What's like for the marriage question or a relationship or whatever, are you getting what you want? That's the only question you have to answer. Now, if you're asking, what do I want? Well, that's up to you. Because every institution, everything, whether it's your mom, your church, your school, everybody wants something from you. Nobody wants you to succeed, if you understand it so far. So you can't ask anybody else, because the best you're going to get is what they want, not what you want. And this is why you have to go out, sleep with a bunch of women, have your fun, get into a relationship. But every step of the way, everybody else has to provide you with a reason to give them what they want. If a girl wants to commit to you, why? What do I get that I'm not already getting by having you as a plate? That's on her. If she can explain that and show that, not just explain it, then that's why you should do it. If she really wants to marry you, well, what's in it for me that I'm not getting from a long-term relationship? It's on the rest of the world to show you why you should value what they want you to value. And until you can see where the value is for you, then the answer to that is unanswered, and it should be unanswered. And just us telling you something, all I'm going to do is tell you to do what I was doing because it makes me feel better about my choices. And Rollo, I mean, he's more objective about it, but for the most part.
Well, what I tell guys is don't, whatever your end goal is, make sure it's your goal. I don't want a cult. I'm a Rollotomassi man. I don't want you. I don't want you to be a Tomassi man. I want you to be your own dude. And I want you to use whatever it is that I come up with, or whatever. If it doesn't apply to you, don't use it. But I want you to use those tools to build yourself into who you're going to be at the end of the day. People get very frustrated that I don't give them prescriptions. This is why.
Come on, Dad.
Yeah, give me 12 rules, please. Just 12. That's all I have. All right. Bane says, I've noticed ads on TV encouraging women to report abuse of any kind during their stay-at-home orders. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, well, the reason that they're doing that is because that's the divorce industry is what that is. Me Too has sort of set us up for that, for sure. I think, what was it? Was it in Thailand or was it in Singapore where they're saying, like, they put out these public service announcements, like telling wives, don't nag your husband because the real reason is we're afraid that men might
beat the crap out of you,
the hell out of you. So don't nag them until all this is over, and then consider divorcing. What else?
Yeah, if any girl starts throwing out the abuse line at me, that's a complete deal breaker. You can't open that Pandora's box. That's my only thought on it.
My girlfriend just moved in and she's starting to act sassy. Intimacy is declining. How do I flip the script? Kick her out.
Yep.
Simple as that. Honestly, kick her out. You don't have her in there in the first place. You broke iron rule of Tomassi number 4, which is never move in with a girl, particularly unless you're going to marry her or you have plans to marry her within the next 6 months. Never move a woman into your living space, and never you move into her living space. Always relationships, even good, healthy, like you're monogamous with the person, good, healthy relationships work best when you keep that woman at arm's distance until she shows signs that she's living within your frame, or she sees you as the prime in the relationship.
Yeah, and she crossed your boundary. You only got 3 ways to enforce your boundaries: your attention, your affection, and your commitment. So I don't know how sassy or bossy or ineffective or
unintimate.
Thank you. She is. You need to pull 1, 2, or all 3 of those tools commensurate with how badly that boundary got crossed. And in this case, kicking her out seems to be a fairly straightforward one.
All right. I think I got to all of these, and we're coming up on 2, so I'm going to end us here. Atlas Shrugged. Yes, I read Atlas Shrugged. I'm looking back and see, because Sam saves these for me. Oh, Avram Young said, MGTOWs, more red pill aware than betas.
Red pill aware. I love that. That's literally saying, I know all this material, but I didn't do F all about it.
Yeah.
Red pill aware is like our slander we use against guys.
This is a great one. Sid Kid says, what do you guys think of Yogi Zero abs? Do you? No, I don't actually.
That was the funniest clout chasing argument with John ever.
Well, look for it. What was it? Yeah, you should go ask John on I should save that. Avram, ask that of John, Modern Life Dating John, on Saturday's Rule Zero. And then before you do, go look up the bitch tits video of Yogi Zero abs.
Oh, that's funny.
Man,
that guy knows, though. There's no way you weren't giving us that softball to answer. You knew.
Avram Young also says people value something being conventional, human, man being masculine, high testosterone, and girl being feminine over someone intelligent and altruism. Let me tell you something. I think a lot of guys make, and I should probably write this down on the big book of everything. A lot of guys, when we talk about intelligence, a lot of guys want to talk about like IQ, and that's out of my wheelhouse. I don't usually get into topics about that, but I will say this is that I think a lot of those guys tend to be what we call secret kings. They tend that just because their IQ is 160, and I will tell you this right now, my IQ is in the gifted range. Let's just say that.
Hey, me too. Actually, I'm just like a percentage shy.
Yeah, I'm in the gifted range. I found that out the other day. Highly gifted, and it's funny. There's different degrees of gifted as well, but there's a range between. I forget what it is, but I'm in the gifted range.
Well, it's the standard deviations. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm third standard deviation.
I'm not a genius, put it that way.
I found out from the military, they give you your entrance exam, and it turns out it's applicable for a Mensa entrance requirement.
Oh,
so
really?
I plugged in all the numbers and found out. I was like, that's pretty cool.
I didn't even know what gifted was until. But here's the thing: when I talk about intelligence, I will talk about intelligence in terms of like how guys would like to believe that it is it should be in some way attractive to women, and from a completely logical, rational, reasonable, nuts and bolts perspective, yes, it should, but it's not.
Yeah. I think those guys are midwits though. I think, is that a Talib line, the midwit?
Yeah.
The guys who are like 110, 120, like they're smarter than average, but they're not gifted. So they got that Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah. I've heard Vox Day refer to midwit before. And I think, is that it? Let's see. I got one last one. All right, guys, this is it. Last one. No more. Please stop giving me money. I don't want any of your money. Let's see. Oh, what did you say? Backup content. It took hours to find old RSD bangers. You know what? I tried to look up some old RSD videos on YouTube not too long ago. I can't find anything like from prior to 2015 or 2016. Like all of the old infield videos are gone. Like
I know. I'm trying to find, there's a video of this marriage counselor crying in her car about not being married. Another dude who cries to the camera about what's so great about women, how they smell like lavender. Gone from the internet.
Gone from the internet. Amazing. Yeah. Well, okay. So, I mean, we're being facetious here, obviously, but what bugs me about that is it's usually the content creators that are erasing those things themselves. But I had to recently, and I was one of many people trying to convince Dalrock not to erase his blog because there's so much good material there that it would be a shame not to back it up and not have it, just sort of for posterity.
Yeah.
I think that I thought it was a damn shame that RSD decided to delete all of their videos, like our infield, like game videos, because it doesn't align with their purpose of being the next woo-woo magical Tony Robbins now.
It's a damn shame. Royce, same thing. He got shut down, I guess twice, because Royce in DC got shut down originally. Or did he drop it?
No, Royce in DC, if people want to know what happened, here's what happened with Royce in DC. Back in 2009, Royce, the original Royce, the one and only Royce writer, was doxxed. He got doxxed by one of his a female commenter she went by the term handle Lady Rain is what her thing was. And he got doxxed. Apparently he's in DC, works in Washington, DC. And from what I can gather, he had a government job and it was at risk because he got doxxed. And so he was just like, screw it. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm out. And that would have been a damn shame because it was the #1 trafficked website or website and blog for Red Pill Monosphere kind of content. Like mine was pretty good. Roosh's was pretty good, but both of us could not touch Royce's stuff. Well, what he did was, I don't know if he sold it or he just handed it off to a group of writers who kind of write in the same style, or they try to use his vernacular or his terms and stuff, but then it turned into sort of race baiting and ethno-nationalism and
full gay lube oil on that one.
Oh yeah, and it's all the Jews' fault, and it's like he's always been kind of like that. Like he'd have the occasional ones in between a lot of game posts, and then it became all about ethno-nationalism and race stuff, race realism, and all this other stuff. And then occasionally there'd be a game post, and then that was when I kind of checked out. But I mean,
everybody did, really.
I don't think it was. I don't honestly. Either he was one of those writers, or it was a whole different set, and it just had a different feel to it. And then, of course, in last year, in 2019, WordPress decided to shut that down because it was still just it would never monetize the site. It was very popular, and then somebody complained to WordPress, and they basically shut them down because it was a free WordPress website. The whole from 2007, 2000, somewhere around there, 2006, 2007, up to 2019, it was always on that free site.
Which was kind of funny. It was the biggest free blog site, I think, too, at the time on WordPress, wasn't it?
Absolutely bizarre. Yeah, and it always had really high number. If you go and you probably still now, if you go and you look at, there's an archive of it. If anybody really wants to go check out the old
Heartiste.org.
Yeah, heartiste.org is the website if you want to go check that out. It's still worth the game stuff. I think is still worth it. If you, like I said, it kind of got diluted with a lot of stuff that I'm not like certainly my
Start
wheel.
at the beginning and work your way up.
Yeah. And then YOLO finally here. What did you say, YOLO?
Yeah, really. He deleted all his stuff. His stuff was gone.
Yeah, really has an archive. Yeah, really. If you and I feel bad about really. Honest to God, this was back like really was one of these guys who was, you want to talk about like dyed in the wool PUA. Really was the guy. Like if you want to learn game, you learn from this guy. And honestly, I don't know who he was, but there was a time where I thought that maybe he was certainly a shill for RSD. And this was at the time when RSD was kind of shifting over from being a game kind of, about pickup and game and everything over to the Tony Robbins shit that they're doing right now, that they've been doing really for the last 4 or 5 years. But if you want game, if you want to learn real game dynamic, like what's the cerebral nuts and bolts behind game dynamics, really is really good. And there is an archive of his stuff somewhere. I think it's called the really archive. Just Google that and you'll find. You want game, that's where you ought to start. But again, all of the video references that he has in that archive are gone because they're RSD videos. So yeah, it's
actually part of, like, I have a private forum now for guys who have stayed in my Patreon for the full 30 days and they become paid members. I invite them in, and a lot of it is just taking the best of from all these places, because like the Solomon 2 completely gone, Return of Kings has it. I'm surprised they haven't deleted it yet. But all these places, and you have no idea how long they're going to last. So I'm like, if I can't trust everybody else to archive this stuff, so at least I can put it on there. And I try to link the original stuff when I can, but it's like the Library of Alexandria. They burn the Alexandria. They burn the thing down, and guys are scrambling with books.
That's always been something that's bugged me. That especially when Dalrock decided he was going to close his doors. It's too much. And what are you doing? You're leaving. Like I will never close my door. I doubt that'll ever happen anyways, but I'm never going to close the Rational Mail. Blogging is what I do, and it's what I will continue to do even when people aren't. I blog not because I want other people to read it, but because I want to read it, because I want to get my thoughts out on there, and hopefully people can opine as well. Mark Gordon says, is Rollo Pook? Am I Pook? Does anybody even know who Pook is? Only Ryan knows who Pook is.
Yeah, I don't know. No, he's a lawyer, was he not?
I don't know what happened to Pook.
Yeah, he just up and disappeared one day. I can't remember how I know this, but somebody said he was a lawyer. He was doing the game stuff. He was a bit of a LARPer. That's the best I came up with from what different sources said, bits and pieces. It sounds so mystical.
Yeah.
But yeah, a bit of a LARPer, but the way he put things together was still fairly actionable, kind of like an Illimitable Man thing. Like they don't do what I say, not what as I do.
All right, guys, this has been fun. The takeaway from today, if you've made it this far, if you've actually watched this video beyond the 30 average minutes, most people,
and hit the like button, smash it now.
Like button. Also, remember Ryan's got a book coming out. And when does it publish? When does it go live?
It went live this morning.
Oh, so it's already up.
First day out. Yeah, it's already in the top 100 in love and romance books. I don't know how that happened, but whatever.
Yeah, cool.
Links in the chat, links in the description, along with a little disclaimer on it.
Right.
Check it out. I guarantee you'll like it. It's one part Bukowski's Women, a novel, except for without the boomer hippie stuff. It's one part Neil Strauss's The Game, minus the whole emotional breakdown stuff. and it's 1 part Jordan Peterson's Rules for Life minus the naive optimism side of things.
There you go. We need to do a full interview of that. Oh, speaking of interviews, tomorrow I will be on this channel. So set your, I'll put the event up probably by this evening. I'm going to be interviewing Sterling Cooper with my good friend Richard Cooper, no relation. Sterling Cooper is a porn star. I don't know if he's still working. I don't know if he's an ex-porn star, if he's still working in the business, but he said he's read all 3 of my books. He approached myself. Did he approach you too?
Yeah, me too.
You're more than welcome to come along if you want to be in that. But we're gonna talk to Sterling Cooper about the red pill and porn and the porn industry. And actually, he's actually a pretty smart guy, man. He's really he's given me a lot of material to work with for our interview already. Yeah, so that's gonna be really good. I don't know the time yet. I still have to nail down the time, but it will most likely be in the afternoon or the evening tomorrow. So hit the subscription button and get the alerts, and you will be able to watch that. Again, follow my feed for the event, and I'll let you know when that happens. Also, Saturday, we're doing Rule Zero. That will be on John from Modern Life Dating's channel. So if you are a fan of Rule Zero, also don't forget we have a Rule Zero Facebook group, so you can get all of the information. Yeah. But if you follow any of us, myself, Ryan, Richard, Troy, or John from Modern Life Dating, you will always get an alert of some kind. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right.
Thanks for having me too. It's always a pleasure, man.
Anytime. Thanks, man. Bye.